Vietnam, 1968. The Americans called it the Green Hell. It was a place where the humidity rotted the boots right off your feet, and the canopy was so thick you could not tell high noon from midnight. We know the history of the Tet Offensive. We know the politics and the protests. But there are stories that did not make the evening news. Stories told in hushed tones by special forces operators, men who saw things in those jungles that should not exist. Tonight, we are looking at one of the strangest unsolved mysteries of the war. A mission where a long-range reconnaissance patrol, a LRRP team, went looking for the North Vietnamese army, but found something much older, much hungrier, and far more terrifying. This is the mystery of the Screaming Jungle. It began for Team Rattler on a Tuesday. 6 men, elite. Their job was simple: insert near the Cambodian border, observe NVA supply lines, and get out. They were ghosts in the brush, trained to move without making a single sound. But by the second night, the atmosphere changed. It was not the enemy they felt. It was a weight, a silence. In the jungle, silence is a death sentence. It means the local wildlife has stopped breathing because a predator is near. The team leader, Sergeant Miller, reported a strange smell. Not the smell of cooking fires or gunpowder. It was musky, like rotting meat and wet fur. And then, the rocks started flying. At first, they thought it was the North Vietnamese playing mind games, but these were not pebbles. These were boulders the size of softballs, hurled through the canopy with enough force to crack a human skull. The team stayed low, fingers on their triggers, waiting for an enemy that refused to show its face. According to veteran accounts, many of which are buried in the deep archives of the war, these creatures were known to the locals as the Batutut. To the American GIs, they were simply known as rock apes. They were said to be 6 feet tall, covered in matted, reddish-brown hair, with protruding stomachs and immense, unnatural strength. On this night, Team Rattler was not just being watched. They were being hunted by something that did not use rifles or radio frequency. One member of the team, Private Jenkins, swore he saw a shape rise from the brush. He did not wait for an order. He opened fire. The muzzle flash of his M16 illuminated a face that was human, but not. Wide-set eyes, a flat nose, and a roar that sounded like a mechanical saw cutting through bone. The team emptied their magazines into the tree line. The noise was deafening, a chaotic symphony of lead and screams. When the smoke finally cleared, they expected to find bodies. NVA soldiers, maybe a stray orangutan. They found nothing. No blood, no footprints, no brass casings other than their own. Just the heavy, suffocating silence returning to the jungle. The creatures had not died. They had simply vanished back into the green. But the mystery of the jungle does not just involve monsters. It involves men who simply evaporated. Take the legendary case of Jerry Mad Dog Shriver. Shriver was a Green Beret of the highest caliber, a man who lived on the edge and reportedly carried a sawed-off shotgun and a hatchet into battle. In April of 1969, Shriver and his team were inserted into a high-threat zone in Cambodia. The moment they touched the ground, they were met with a wall of machine gun fire from an entrenched enemy. Shriver was last seen running toward a dense tree line, firing his weapon with a grim smile, providing a desperate shield for his men to escape. He disappeared into that foliage, his rifle barking until the sound was swallowed by the jungle. He never came out. For decades, the military searched for Jerry Shriver. They found his gear, they found his weapon lying on the forest floor. but they never found a single trace of the man himself. No remains, no signs of a struggle, no intelligence reports of a high-value prisoner matching his description. He did not just die in combat. He vanished as if the jungle had opened up and swallowed him whole. To this day, his name remains one of the most haunting entries in the list of the missing. Some say he is still out there, a ghost soldier protecting the borders of a war that ended 50 years ago. As terrifying as the vanishing of men can be, there were other sightings that defied the laws of biology. Many veterans returned with stories of the jungle Goliath, giant snakes that exceeded any known scientific record. One account from a patrol in the Mekong Delta describes a group of soldiers stumbling upon a serpent that was reportedly over 50 feet long. They found it resting in a clearing, its body as thick as a telephone pole. The men were frozen in terror, knowing that their rifles might only irritate a creature of that size. They watched in a trance as it slithered into the black water, moving with a grace that felt ancient and wrong. These sightings were so common among the LRRP teams that they became part of the local lore, a reminder that in the deep jungle, the food chain looks very different than it does in the rest of the world. Then there are the stories of the phantom radio broadcasts. Communications officers reported picking up signals on secure frequencies that should have been empty. Sometimes they would hear the sounds of a busy American diner, clinking silverware, jazz music, and muffled laughter, broadcasting from the middle of a desolate, uninhabited valley. Other times, the voices were more personal. Soldiers reported hearing their own names called out over the radio by voices that sounded exactly like their loved ones back home. These were not enemy psychological operations. The details were too specific, the voices too real. Veterans still speak of the chills that ran down their spines when they heard a mother or a wife's voice crackling through a military-grade radio in the middle of a firefight, pleading for them to come home. The mystery deepens when we look to the skies over the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. In 1968, a series of reports came in regarding unidentified flying objects. These were not aircraft. They were described as glowing orbs or metallic discs that moved at speeds no jet could match. Soldiers on the ground reported seeing these lights hovering over battlefields, seemingly observing the carnage below before zipping away into the stars. The military officially dismissed these as flares, but the men who watched these crafts dance through the anti-aircraft fire knew they were seeing something from somewhere else. Perhaps the most unsettling mystery is that of the Vanishing Platoon. In the Central Highlands, a unit of 20 men reportedly went on a routine patrol and never returned. There was no distress signal, no sounds of a firefight. When a search party was sent to their last known location, they found a campsite that was perfectly preserved. The coffee was still warm in the pots. Rifles were leaned against trees, but there was not a single human being in sight. There were no footprints leading away from the camp, and no signs of an ambush. It was as if 20 men had simply ceased to exist in the span of a heartbeat. To this day, the Department of Defense lists over 1,500 Americans as unaccounted for from the Vietnam War. While most were lost to the documented horrors of a brutal conflict, the stories suggest that something else was at play. If you talk to the men who were actually there, they will tell you about the screaming jungle. They will tell you that some mysteries are not meant to be solved. They are meant to be left in the shade of the canopy. Because in the green hell, you are never truly alone. Something is always watching. Something is always waiting. If you enjoyed this journey into the unexplained, please like and subscribe for more deep dives. Leave a comment below if you have a story from the bush that cannot be explained. Until next time, keep your eyes on the shadows.